how to have integrity. Because in their minds, purity and integrity is about leading and being a man. It's not about being honest and consistent. I don't have enough hands and toes on my body to recount the horrible things I heard from wives when I was young. My mother would counsel cis straight women in churches who were married. Their husbands would have girlfriends, an unexpected child they don't know about. He would buy women a house and she would find out. So many scenarios of just awful behavior. And church creates these people. Church not only creates, teaches, supports, hides, threatens, stonewalls anything that doesn't uplift these horrible people. They teach that these people are chosen by God to lead. If somebody can't remain faithful to their wife, doesn't have integrity, and does the exact opposite of what they swore to do when they got married, this person should not even be allowed in a position of authority, minor, senior, whatever. Not all married people have to be monogamous, but if you give your word that you're going to be monogamous and you intentionally and habitually do the opposite, you're not a Christian. You're a horrible human being. If you give your word you're going to do something, either do it or communicate that you don't want to, change the rules, or leave. It's that simple. There is no talks about consent. Misconduct isn't even a word that is talked about. And when somebody's caught doing something, which is so rare, it might as well be a unicorn, because nobody comes forward in the churches I've been in for anything. The leadership distance themselves from the pariah, the guilty person, and just says, well, we're not like that. But if predators constantly keep popping up in your denomination, I mean, some internal reflection would say, maybe there's something wrong with this environment that so many predators are coming out of it. No. Critical thinking, I guess having your own individuality is all you can hope for, because critical thinking, I didn't see much of anything like that in 30 years of attending churches. Whatever the popular people want, everyone agrees. And if you don't, they drive you out. And you can take my word for that, because I was in 6 churches that drove my family out for having a difference of opinion. Because churches don't see it as a difference of opinion. They see you as an instrument of Satan. If you don't agree with the majority of people, you're a threat from anything but God. And the rules don't apply to these people. They should, but they don't. And if you want a job, you have to meet requirements. If you want to be a pastor, you have to have a seminary degree, either a master's or a PhD. If you don't, you can't be a pastor. And my family was driven out of 6 churches for not supporting a music minister or a deacon who had no education beyond a college degree in a seminary. They wanted, or they pretty much took the job for themselves. The vote was just honorary because they didn't have the education. They didn't have the seminary experience. They did not have a preaching education. And they were not qualified. I mean, to be qualified, you must reach at least a 7 out of 10 for experience. He was a 2. He had never preached before. He had no education, no diploma. He had not gone to seminary, like 6 different churches. And if he didn't like the results of the vote, he waited 6 weeks and voted again. It really does sound like Trump. Yes. And he would drive out the people who didn't vote the way he wanted and then have a recount. That's the kind of atmosphere I grew up in. It's not a difference of opinion, it's spiritual warfare. And church, religion does everything it can to keep men safe without caring what happens to women or children. Wives have to leave everything they know to stay safe and get away from just toxic people. And this is the environment that I grew up in. And yes, church will always blame women for men's misconduct because they don't see it as a male misconduct. They see it as a woman behaving as a woman, luring a man. And there are Christians I've read in the comments section in several videos I've watched where pastors are convicted and arrested for CSA, multiple CSA on church members who were children. They will still defend the pastors and say, the children lured the adult. Children can't lure adults. It's the other way around. Religion will do everything it can to protect powerful men. And the men don't even have to be powerful. I've met wives whose husbands had no religious authority. They were just a member of a Sunday school class. They volunteered, but they were in no minor or senior position of authority, leadership position. They weren't a teacher, a pastor, whatever. They were nothing. And the church leadership still protected them. Because if you don't take a man along with you when you complain, you might as well be blowing smoke up your butt. Because these groups don't see women as human. They see them as human-like to have kids with. They're not human. And no parent who has any wisdom would want a child to grow up, especially a female child, in an environment that prioritizes men's comfort over women's autonomy. And I don't believe autonomy exists in high control religion. How can you make choices objectively when you've never been allowed to have more than one choice? You either do this or you don't. That's the only choice they have. And children becoming Christians, children can't make lifelong decisions because their brain hasn't developed. There are no Christian children. There are only children attending church. If your brain hasn't fully developed, you're not a Christian, you're not a Muslim, you're not a Hindu. You attend church. That's it. If you're not at least 18 years of age where you can make a lifelong commitment legally, you can't be anything. And I would hear a lot where my kids are Christians. No, they're not. If they can't make their own decisions and they don't know anything but Christianity, they're not a Christian. They're a child who thinks they should be doing something because that's all they know. Church creates an environment where women get lucky or they don't when it comes to being married. The odds are stacked against you. And a lot of these people aren't educated about their bodies, educated about the law and family and relationship dynamics. They could be SA'd while they're married and haven't a clue what happened to them. I've met at least 4 wives in Baptist churches that were SA'd by their husbands and had no clue what it was. They thought it was a boundary miscommunication. I mean, imagine going into a courtroom and you're a guy who's been accused of rape and saying, we had a boundary miscommunication. I'm trying so hard not to laugh because it's not funny. I mean, the audacity and stupidity, the insidious lack of empathy for people is so astounding. It borders on the ridiculous. It's not a boundary miscommunication. It's I have needs and I'm not even going to ask you about it. I'm just going to do what I want scenario. A boundary miscommunication is not the same thing as assault. It's usually hugging somebody who's never expressed they don't like to be hugged, or you can't read the room to tell someone's uncomfortable about being hugged. That's a boundary miscommunication. Assaulting someone while they sleep is not a boundary issue. It's a crime issue. And yes, I've met at least 4 women in church who've been married for years who was assaulted. We could criminally call it RAPE. They had no clue that what happened to them was a felony. They thought they just didn't do what they were supposed to do because they believed so highly in gender roles and obeying their husband. They're not allowed autonomy. And even if they say yes or no to anything, any behavior of any kind, you can't say yes or no legally if you have no informed consent. If you don't know what your rights are, you don't know what's okay socially and legally. You know as little about your body as a toddler does. There is no such thing as informed consent for you. Because saying yes the decision isn't made by a well-rounded, educated, assertive person. It's made by a person who thinks they're someone's property. And little to nothing has been done in the last 25 years to protect women in these fundamentalist Christian environments. You look at the Duggar family, and I quote, one of the daughters said, when they confronted their father about the treatment they received, you treated our brother, who molested them, better than you treat us, who are the victims. Because that's the way fundamentalist Christianity views men. That's how they view women. Because male inconvenience is more unthinkable than a woman feeling safe. Men want women to be so uncomfortable so they're not uncomfortable. In my opinion, we need to make it socially acceptable for men to be uncomfortable if the other person isn't comfortable. I mean, who cares about comfort if the other person is uncomfortable? If I do something that makes someone uncomfortable, I want to know about it. Because that's how you respect other people. For someone to care only about male comfort without thinking about the female comfort of it all, I mean, that is sexual violence adjacent. If you don't care about the comfort of women, the comfort of minorities, the comfort of the queer community, you're not a good person. And if you have to rely on a God to make you care about somebody, you're not a good person. If you don't see somebody as valuable because of who they are, not whose daughter they are, not whose wife they are, not whose mother they are, but just as her own self, without any man or child attached to her, you're not a good person. Men will do anything to escape accountability. They will bribe, they will threaten, They will spread false rumors. They will stalk you. They will cyberbully you. They'll even put a tracker under your car. I've known a few women who suffered that. They will turn your kids against you, your family against you. Because their comfort is the only comfort they're even aware of. They don't acknowledge any comfort besides their own. And if your feelings, your boundaries, your body has to be sacrificed to make them comfortable and to make their ego as big as possible, they don't care. And the majority of men who wouldn't hurt women still enable, hide, and defend them, the people who do. There's a very small percentage of men who don't enable, protect, or pray. And I would say half the women on this planet enable, hide, and allow men to escape accountability. I mean, look at the people who voted for Trump. I don't care what a candidate offers. If he has 26 misconduct accusations, you don't vote for him. I mean, I don't care if he's a good guy, if his agenda for the White House is immaculate. If he has 26 sexual misconduct accusations out there that are very credible, you don't elect him. Because then it makes us all look bad. I'd rather have a monkey as the president without misconduct allegations than a president who has. I mean, imagine a country selecting a convicted sex offender, or in Trump's case, a known offender, to represent them at the Olympics. You want someone like that representing our country? If you do, you're supporting people who like children, and not in the grandma kind of way. Anyone who supports and votes for people that are on a list or are known to harm vulnerable people, regardless of age, even though age matters, you are the problem. And you can't say we protect the rights of women, children, and the vulnerable when you support Trump. You cannot support someone who violates people's consent and say you care about children. That makes you a liar. And I'm probably going to receive some very angry comments about this, because people don't like being called out about hypocrisy. And nobody does hypocrisy like Christianity does. And I always say America becomes better one funeral at a time. Because people who talk, preach, and print information that protects male entitlement, male violence against anybody, our world is better every time those people die. Naturally. And the world is a better place without people like Dr. James Dobson or... So yes, our country is being made better by the natural deaths of racist, homophobic, sexist, white, cis, straight pastors. People like Dr. Dobson, John MacArthur, Jimmy Swaggart. Our world is better because these hypocrites, these hateful preachers are gone. And it's a terrible thing to view somebody like that without justification. But when these people probably caused the deaths of multiple kids through suicide, displacement from their parents' homes due to not being cis or straight, how many women have gone back to abusive partners because of the way these people preach about marriage? How many lives have these people ruined? How many relationships, families, and communities have people ruined how many lives have been so completely altered by what these people taught and how they spoke about groups and people. We're better off without them. And it's sad that someone with so much potential, so much platform, chose to be on the wrong side of history and preach prejudice. Because nothing mattered more to these dead racists than keeping women in abusive relationships, enabling the patriarchy, screaming that God hates fairies. And that's not me saying that. That's what's on the Westboro picket signs. The world's better off with these people not being able to speak. And luckily,